Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josephine Watson, and I'm the Commercial Project Editor at iGaming Business. We're happy to be hosting a webinar with WorldPay this afternoon, which will be discussing post-PASPA payments. In the years since PASPA's repeal, the US market has seen significant change and development for regulators, players, and operators. However, the journey has not been easy, and there remain many questions left unanswered, such as how will more junior verticals such as esports fare? How does the Wire Act impact cross-state transactions? And what are the challenges and opportunities for mobile payments? Your hosts for today will be Joseph Papano, Senior Vice President at WorldPay, and Neil Ehrlich, Executive Vice President of Business Development at PaySafe. Joe joined Vantiv, now WorldPay, in 1992, and he's advocated for the industry for more than 26 years and continues to speak out in regards to the convergence of gaming and payments with an emphasis on an omni-commerce player experience. Neil has been a member of PaySafe's management team for 15 years as part of the original team which helped grow the company from startup to multi-billion enterprise. Since 2013, he's been responsible for business development, helping businesses implement new payment capabilities. There will be a Q&A session following the presentation, so do submit questions as we go along, and we'll try to address as many as possible in the allocated time. With that, I'll hand over to Joe.
Thanks, everyone, for joining the call and the discussion. It was pertinent that we provided an update on the payment landscape based on the OLC opinion and everything that's been transpired over the last multiple months. In regards to the topics that we're going to discuss, we're going to talk about the payments industry and how it continues to evolve in this new era as it relates to the Wire Act and some of the uncertainties in the market. We're not going to give a legal overview. I think that has been exhausted as there's multiple opinions and people have opined on what the impact of payments may be related to the Wire Act. We're going to give great visibility into the positive movement that continues to exist within the payments ecosystem supporting this industry. And more importantly, what's the new landscape look like in the U.S. market for both the players and the operators? If you take a look, it's been trying to get the slide to move. It's been a year since PASPA has been repealed. You know, one of the biggest things is America, if you look at all the different predictions that have been provided in the marketplace, whether it's gambling compliance, whether it's the American Gaming Association and many other key stakeholders in the industry, the common denominator and common factor in all that is the U.S. market is on track to become the largest sports betting market in the world. And what's critical in that is the movement of online and mobile in terms of that gaming and gambling expansion. And the critical element in all that is a seamless, frictionless experience as it relates to the payment ecosystem. And why this update is important is if you take a look at the results of the New Jersey market, and I compliment Director Rebuck and that entire organization in regards to the key driver being mobile, it has been a very frictionless environment and shows the demand for the product and how it can be offered in a safe, secure environment. In the coming weeks, you are going to have the jurisdictions of Pennsylvania and West Virginia going live with mobile and online acceptance. So as we continue to navigate the uncertainties, it's critical to understand where we are at as it relates to payments in support of the online gambling and sports betting industry. When you take a look at the impact of the Wire Act, many questions have circulated over the last months, and these are just a few of those. All these questions that have been circulating in the industry, everyone has varying opinions on what will happen and or what will be enforced. These uncertainties continues, and it's critical to understand how the payment industry has aligned in correlation to what some of the new initiatives are in the marketplace surrounding the movement of a true omni-channel offering in the U.S. market. So many questions have been outstanding. Everyone is still trying to understand what is ultimately going to be rendered and or decided. But it's imperative to know, as an industry, when you take a look at the trillions of dollars that circulate very seamless and frictionless in the U.S. market surrounding the payment ecosystem, everyone needs to understand the unity and the alignment of how the payment industry continues to come together in support of this industry. As I stated, payments works seamlessly. It works frictionlessly. Think about a transaction. You can process a transaction online or in a face-to-face environment around the world, and that can be facilitated and supported within seconds. The ecosystem has been around for decades. It's time-tested. It's well-proven. There's already inherited consumer protections in place. The velocities and controls exist, and you have an audit trail on each transaction, which is imperative when you take a look at responsible gaming. There is an unwavering confidence and commitment in supporting the sports betting and iGaming industry. The payment industry continues to not to overreact to the opinion and some of the recent news that continues to come out in regards to the industry. There has not been a knee-jerk reaction. Updates, Visa and MasterCard continue to operate business as usual. In fact, you are going to have TD Bank is slated to go live as they've updated their decisioning tool at the end of May, early June for their debit card program. Wells Fargo for their debit card program is slated to go live in July, and others to follow as they go through and update the cardholders' terms and conditions, the real-time decisioning tool, meaning their issuer processor, in support of merchant category code 7801, and they validate and document that they have the proper governance, controls, and oversight in place. So you see the issuers, some of the issuers that have been non-acceptors, taking an unwavering approach of getting and moving into the market here in the next few months. Tremendous vote of confidence to what this industry will bring in optimizing the various revenue opportunities. The next update, the Discover Network is live in the New Jersey market for both debit, prepaid, and credit. And we continue to work with the Discover Network on rolling out a new network in the New Jersey market and then cascading that down into other jurisdictions for card acceptance activity. The next update, American Express is finalizing go live dates with a few operators in the New Jersey market with various, they have multiple product types for Amex acceptance for online sports betting in the New Jersey market. You have additional BIN sponsors, financial institutions who have sat on the sidelines now coming into the industry wanting to sponsor gaming and gambling activity. I would say that is tremendous movement when you take a look at the jurisdictional rollout. To date, we have 33 states that are either live, have pending legislation, and or have passed legislation surrounding the movement of sports betting. And knowing payments becomes the key intricacy and ecosystem to create that seamless movement is critical. And there is tremendous movement with the payment industry and those aggregating in support of the payment industry to stay unified in working with and educating all key stakeholders, including the issuers, the network, the legislators, the congressional staffers, the trade association groups. You look at the American Gaming Association and IDEA, there's great unity in regards to leaning this industry forward. So great updates from a payments perspective as we continue to align, knowing payments will ultimately be the heartbeat of seamlessly moving money in and out and making it frictionless And it's imperative that regardless of the outcome of the opinion and what inevitably gets enforced or not, that we continue to lean this industry forward and do it in a safe, secure manner. With that, you take a look at the new operator landscape. And some of you may or may not know this, but there are multiple initiatives ongoing, including and or tangentially related to the movement of sports betting and or internet gaming on a jurisdictional basis. Number one, the omni-commerce experience or offering. As many of you know, casinos and or state lotteries exist in the U.S. market in over 40 plus jurisdictions. The current regulatory environment that's being passed on a state-by-state basis, the regs are tied back to the gaming expansion of online and or sports betting being tied back to a land-based casino, a state lottery, and or a racetrack. So the ability to create the strategy that stitches the multiple points of interaction of online, mobile, back to some form of brick and mortar is critical in the overall strategy and the rollout to truly optimize player experience and understand behaviors and leverage the various revenue streams has to ultimately be inclusive of some form of omni-commerce offering, because it's imperative based on what's being rolled out in the U.S. market. When you take a look at the card networks, and I compliment the Visa organization, they are paving the way for also providing and driving initiatives for card-present acceptance of transactions and the ability to seamlessly fund a wagering account and or place a bet in that face-to-face environment, whether it be at the retail sports book at the counter and or through peripheral devices within the sports book to fund your wagering account. Ongoing initiatives are being embedded and implemented by the card networks, and Visa's leading that initiative for card-present acceptance, which creates that seamless ecosystem. Neil, anything you want to add related to that omni-channel offering based on the new landscape?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I think then that's a great start and a good update. And I think even just before I get there, I think you talk about the tremendous movement in the industry as it relates to payments, and I couldn't agree more. I think, we're often faced with, a period of where both consumers and operators and members of the different states are looking for instant gratification. But the way that we've approached this is when you talk about the number of states that will hopefully be live, with sports betting, for example, online or other by 2023, we look at this and say this is just the beginning. And when you look at the markets that are open today, that are accepting payments, and that the fact that that is going to grow exponentially, I think that we are doing tremendous things collectively. And you talked about a lot of the groups that are playing a big part of that. But just for everyone to remember that this is the beginning of something very special, and we shouldn't lose sight of that when there are some challenges like there are in any industry as it develops. And I think that when we preach patience, at the same time we're saying there's a ton of great things happening in the background with groups like WorldPay and the credit card brands and the regulators and the different trade associations. So couldn't agree more, Joe, with the great things that are going on behind the scenes. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
As it relates to the omni-commerce experience, I think that this relates to gaming and non, and I think that you're seeing the convergence of that brick and mortar world come with the online world, and finding ways for not only a consumer to be able to leverage the same wallet, if you will, being able to manage balances and accounts, whether he's playing a game or making a wager at a property in person or on his mobile device. I think that there's new ways today that we continue to explore, whether it be with our digital wallet products that will enable that to happen for the consumer. And I think that to us, that's on the consumer side, and then on the operator side, being able to manage all of their payments from a consolidated fashion, not having to control different systems everywhere they work, whether it's a different jurisdiction, again, online, mobile, or brick and mortar, and bringing that all together so that they can really leverage all of the data and the analytics that they're collecting on their consumers.
Yeah, and that's great add and color to as the industry continues to evolve. When we look at the new revenue streams, it's important to understand as the convergence of gaming and non-gaming, whether it be online, mobile, back to a brick and mortar, as that continues to occur, you are having the opportunity to create new revenue streams. There is tremendous innovation occurring in the industry that is stitching together and providing that consolidated player experience to seamlessly move money in and out. And there are some great partners in the ecosystem providing this, whether it's PaySafe and the brands that they hold from their digital wallets. You have a company, Sightline Payments, in their Play Plus offering, the ability to tie back and create that seamless movement of funds regardless of the point of interaction on the gaming floor, online, mobile. Innovation is occurring within the payment ecosystem that will benefit the ongoing movement of this industry. You have new products that are now becoming available in the marketplace from Visa specifically, fast access funding or Visa Direct. Visa now allows gambling winnings to be pushed back to a Visa debit card. MasterCard will soon be following over the next 6 months. But the ability to do that online, and more importantly, being able to do it this October, the ability to do it in a land-based casino, knowing that all points of interaction are converging, the ability to seamlessly move gambling winnings instantaneously back to a debit card, or we'll call it within 30 minutes, is paving the way for new innovation, hence why payments are so critical in the heartbeat of not just online, mobile, but back to the brick and mortar, and why the industry has aligned to make sure that we are going to continue to lean this industry forward, and there's going to be that unwavering confidence to make sure that we are not going to be altered by various opinions that get put out in the marketplace, knowing how the payment ecosystem works. So new innovation, new revenue streams, great companies providing phenomenal product to help drive and optimize new revenue streams. Neil,
yeah, Joe,
anything to add?
I think it might relate to one of the next topics as we talk about new revenue streams. I think it's important. We just talked about all of the new products that are in the market, both from existing providers, whether it's the card brands that you're talking about with Visa and Visa Direct, or some of the other products from existing suppliers in the market. I think it's also important to understand that when we talk, we talk from both the operator perspective as well as the consumer perspective, and it's important to understand the difference. Obviously, when you've been working in the gaming industry, as we have been for close to 20 years, we understand both needs from the consumer and the operator. And what we've come to find out is that the consumer, obviously, they would like options. They want to be presented with options on how to get money into a gaming account. And, depending on, the different markets that you operate in, we operate in over 200 countries around the world. And really every country is presented with different payment options depending on the types of, or the different ways that people pay within those countries. And as you look at the US, I think that, launching and expanding some of the leading digital wallets, we own and operate a product called Skrill that is going to now leverage a lot of what we've learned, and I preached about patience before, but a lot of what we've learned in different areas around the world, and now bringing that into the U.S. Because what we've seen is not only do people want, from a consumer perspective, do they want the ability and have different funding methods to get money into the site, we also know that many of them play or make wagers at multiple sites. And having a centralized wallet where they can that they can actually use almost as their bank account, if you will, to send money and receive money, leveraging a lot of the technology that you just referenced from a lot of the groups that you're talking about in one central place, adds a ton of benefit to the consumer. Easily being able to move from one operator to another, seamless deposits, seamless withdrawals, and I think having that, we've seen the tremendous success around the world and are excited to bring that to the U.S. market. I'd also look at, outside of digital wallets, different ways that people pay. At the end of the day, what is our goal? Our goal is to make sure that when a consumer goes to an operator site, they have a way to get money into that site. We know that in the US specifically, most consumers prefer to use a credit or debit card. We've seen that time and time again. The numbers show us that. And like you just talked about, Joe, with a lot of the large issuers opening up, we're going to see even more of that with groups like TD and Wells coming on board. I think that there are still a large number of consumers that, for a variety of reasons, would prefer to use cash. People that are used to making wagers perhaps prefer to deal in cash. There's an entirely large unbanked population that wants to take advantage of regulated sports betting in their jurisdictions. And I think finding ways to allow people to get money into the system, having the ability to turn cash into digital currency, and you look at a product like PaySafeCard, is exactly what we do. So providing the ability for both consumers and operators to accept payments in a safe and secure environment, whether that's credit or debit cards, or moving money from their bank account like ACH, or having a digital wallet, or being able to convert cash into digital currency, really all ties together nicely into a safe, secure ecosystem for both the consumer and for the operator. And that's really our goal. How do we make sure that when a customer comes to a property, whether that's brick and mortar or whether that's online, that a operator has just spent a ton of money trying to acquire that customer? How do we make sure that when they get to the door, they're able to make a deposit in a safe and secure manner?
Yeah, and that leads nicely into what's happening in the U.S. market surrounding the modernization of gaming regulations. I think this is a critical component that needs to be factored in with all the noise that's been existed in the marketplace, that there is another underlying massive initiative ongoing surrounding the modernization of gaming regulations. And, again, the AGA has been a leading voice of the U.S. gaming industry, and I compliment Bill Miller, the president and CEO, and his tremendous team, because they are leading an initiative that's truly going to converge and bridge the gap between the non-gaming side of a land-based casino, and or whether it be commercial and or tribal, tying back to the gaming floor, and how you make that convergence and movement from cash to cashless, which then corresponds and aggregates up back to any online and or mobile offering. There is a tremendous convergence occurring in working with the different jurisdictions surrounding updating the regs to incorporate that movement of cash to cashless. That will help drive adoption, new player, understand player behavior, and the overall experience of the player. And it will obviously, from a efficiency perspective, the benefit that it has to the operators and the seamless and frictionless experience it provides to the players or the consumer is going to be quite phenomenal, and it's going to obviously impact that entire ecosystem, hence why the payments industry continues to remain incredibly confident and supportive of the overall gaming and gambling industry. When you take a look at new payment trends, right, we touched on a lot of the innovation that's occurring. Neil, I know you're close to some of the new offerings as it relates to the alternative payment methods. Why don't you give an update on what's going to be available outside of what we've discussed in the U.S. market?
Yeah, sure. And again, without just as it relates to PaySafe, I could tell you that both Skrill and I mentioned it briefly, but we're very excited to kind of talk about the launch of our PaySafe card product in the U.S. PaySafe card, Joe, as you know, is really is one of the largest cash voucher or prepaid solutions globally today. It's used for a number of different industries outside of gaming around the world, but obviously gaming is an important part of the business and one that we understand very, very well. And really how the product works is it provides a consumer with the ability to go to a convenience store or pharmacy or gas station, for example. They'll be, just if you look at New Jersey, for example, they'll be close to 4,000 locations just initially, with that being expanded significantly in the coming months, just in New Jersey and other markets alone. But you have the ability to go and buy a voucher, whether it's $50 or $100, and use that voucher. That voucher turns into a 16-digit number PIN that you can then use online exactly like you would a credit card. So again, a few reasons for that. One, we've seen the success in other markets around the world. We process billions of dollars through this payment type today. Number one. Number two, we know, like I just mentioned, that consumer want options. They want the ability to, if they decide that they would like to turn their cash into digital currency, they want to do that. They want to use their credit cards, they want to do that. If they want to use a wallet, they want to do that. And I think that's an important piece to understand, is that this doesn't replace any other type of way that people want to pay. This doesn't replace something that we want to, this doesn't mean that we don't want to continue working closely with you and Visa and the card brands to try and get more issuer acceptance. We want the most acceptance possible for the industry. What we're trying to do, again, is give the consumer as many options as possible so that anytime they go to an operator, it's frictionless, it's seamless, it's easy, it's secure, no matter how they want to pay, whether that's with a card or with cash. So that we're very excited for that, Joe, and I think that the success will mirror what we've seen in the rest of the world in the U.S. in the coming weeks.
Yeah, the collective goal in the industry, and there's a lot of people involved in the industry. It's not just PaySafe, it's not just WorldPay. There is a collective ecosystem where we have alignment that we are doing two things. One, our goal is making sure that we can increase the velocity in however the consumer player wants to conduct a transaction, whether it be any alternative payment method, a direct Visa or a credit or debit transaction, or prepaid type offerings, digital wallets, ACH, cash-oriented programs. Our goal collectively is to make sure that is frictionless and the seamless way to move money in and out. That is imperative to continue to lean an industry forward, because the second critical piece is protecting the integrity of that transaction. When I think about everything that we're doing collectively as an industry regarding educating the gaming regulators, working with and educating the state, the legislators, the key stakeholders, the congressional staffers up on the Hill, everyone involved in the ecosystem is educating about responsible gaming, the protection of a financial transactions that exist, the fraud tools, the velocity controls that exist, to ensure that we are always going to protect the integrity of the transaction, the brands, the networks, and most importantly, the operators and the player. And when everyone starts to understand that this is an ecosystem that has been time tested and well proven, they become key advocates of the promotion of online mobile sports betting and or internet gaming, because those controls exist, and all the various perceptions that have existed about being high risk and charge-offs and fraud. Last year, overall, within all the gaming MCC codes in the U.S. market, which is 7800, which is lottery, not deemed to be gaming or gambling, but then you have 7801 and 02 respectively, the chargebacks were less than 19 basis points, well below your traditional e-commerce transaction that people engage with seamlessly with one click of a button on their everyday consumer experience. So as the industry continues to understand, educate, and understand the controls that exist about, we collectively as an industry have a number one goal of protecting the integrity of that transaction. That bodes well of creating key stakeholders within the legislative process that as they're creating bills and working with, whether it's combating the OLC opinion or the DOJ, that they're imperative of payments will be a key driver in all aspects of creating and optimizing this market.
Hey, Joe, just to that point, I want to add to that. We see this in our discussions with banks, issuers, and acquirers around the world, different regulatory groups that we speak to. There still is a stigma around gaming, despite the fact that we collectively have been working in gaming for over 20 years. There's still a stigma that gaming is considered high risk. And to your point, it's not just in the US. When you talk about the new MCC codes, the 7801, 7802, where we see a lower chargeback rate or dispute rate than we do in traditional e-commerce, the same holds true across the globe. So when you look at our European business, as it relates to gaming, it's the exact same thing. And I think that we point to that often when we look at, when we're trying to help the industry and trying to promote the fact that this is something that the acquirers that have experience, the payments companies that are involved with experience over the last 20 years, you've learned how to manage this business. And we manage it in a way, like you said, where the fraud rates are lower than your traditional e-commerce business. And I think that sometimes that gets overlooked because, the gaming industry in general still has that a lot of people refer to it as high risk, and we look at it the complete opposite way.
Yeah, and I think that goes into the last piece. Collectively as an industry, we are focused on, based on all the data that exists and how it can be leveraged. Specifically in the U.S. market, the data can be leveraged to optimize new revenue streams, and specifically the payments data. I've spoken to a number of online operators and or land-based operators or some of the key ancillary service providers that support the industry. Many of them are trying to create and understand their marketing strategy, cost of acquisition, loyalty, player behavior, time value, how important or how important is that player to me? The payments data allows you to truly address and have a better understanding of that ecosystem, player behavior, loyalty, all the above. And more importantly, I've been in more discussions where organizations are trying to understand and create these generational strategies. How do I accommodate the Gen X versus the Gen Y versus the millennials and whatever generation, because they are going to want to consume the product differently. They have some carry cash. They don't carry cash. They have a different persona or DNA. The payments data and the corresponding data that exists with the alternative payment providers and the ancillary service providers allow you to truly get great visibility and understand the player behavior and how they're conducting their activity, both on property, online, and externally in the marketplace. whether it's on the non-gaming side. So the ability to leverage payment data and all the corresponding data to help solve this generational strategy of understanding the persona and DNA of the player, and correspondingly help drive what the marketing initiatives and cost of acquisition and what is my player, how am I going to incentivize my player? The opportunity now exists. And it's important that we bring up this new operator and player landscape, because this is tangentially related to what is happening with the rollout of online sports betting and/or internet gaming. There is a direct correlation, because of the way the regulatory environment is currently being scoped and what is being presented in the market, of tying back to a land-based casino, lottery, or racetrack. We wanted collectively from PaySafe and WorldPay to give an update, a positive update on all the movement that's happening in innovation, new product offerings that are being introduced to the market, the trade groups that are leading a lot of these initiatives in support of the initiatives, the update and the positive movement of the card brands, the networks, the financial institutions, the ancillary service providers, and then obviously the new operator and player landscape, which directly relates to what's being rolled out, because it is a phenomenal story when you try to combat the complexity and the noise that exists in the marketplace surrounding online gaming, online sports betting, lotteries, all the above, that we collectively as an industry are aligned, and we have a tremendous pulse on the industry. I like to say we have, eyes on the vision, ears to the ground. There is great clarity in regards to the vision of what ultimately this industry will look like. Payments will become a key driver in what this industry will look like, how those protections exist, the controls, and ultimately from a responsible gaming perspective, this is insulated. And conveying that to the broader ecosystem with the legislative and the gaming regulators will bode well on what the vision of this industry looks like. Neil, any final comments on your side, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, Joe. I think you just summarized it quite well. Again, just the key messages and takeaways for me are the fact that so much work is being done behind the scenes. Sometimes it doesn't show instantly, but trust Joe and I when we say that a ton of work, and again, not just like Joe mentioned, PaySafe and WorldPay, but the trade groups, that are working there, the card brands, the different acquirers, the regulators themselves. There's so much that's being done. And again, we just are both are extremely bullish on the potentials for the market, and are excited for what's to come. Things are only going to get better. They continue to get better, and we're very excited about the future of the industry.
Any questions?
Yeah, great guys. Thank you so much for your presentation. There's lots of good insights there. Both of you had a lot of sort of valuable input to put in. So yeah, as Joe said, we'll be moving on to the Q&A segment of our webinar session now. So do continue to send in questions. We've got a couple through already, and we'll try and make through as many as we can before we hit 4 p.m. In our time. So obviously, you mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we don't want to go too far into the regulatory spiel with the amount of noise in this space, but at a fundamental level, how is the Wire Act and current regulatory setup going to affect cross-state transactions? Just as a sort of recap and reminder for those who weren't with our previous webinar as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's, I think a lot of people have opined on in the industry what they believe, and when you break down each word and each comma within the definition of the Wire Act and et cetera, what I will tell you as an industry, we remain steadfast that payments, it's not assisting, it's not assisting in placing a better wager. I'll leave it at that. And we are steadfast that the way the payment ecosystem works, and how literally you can be in one side of the globe and go to a different country and conduct a seamless transaction within seconds, or on a state by state, the payment ecosystem is not set up, nor can it be set up to be intrastate and intrastate only. So we are quite confident as an industry that payments is not implicating and or violating in violation of the Wire Act. Now, obviously, there are a number of discussions, as Neil stated, behind the scenes, working with the card networks, the issuing banks, working through all the intricacies in regards to this. So a lot's going on, but at a high level, I think the industry should have a tremendous confidence that there is that payments is not implicating and or we'll call it violating the Wire Act.
Brilliant. And I guess as a sort of follow-up then, this sort of clear thing on how confident is the payment industry as a whole with regards to the Wire Act?
I don't know, Neil, do you want to answer, or I can?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think everyone is, there are a lot of eyes watching the movement. We continue to evaluate the different lines of business, whether it's, esports, internet gaming, the liquidity pooling arrangement between Nevada, Delaware, New Jersey. We're looking at lottery, right? We're looking at and interrogating, not in a negative way, but all the models. Where does certain functionality sit? Where do servers sit? Who's conducting what? What are the roles and responsibility? We're taking a very prudent approach to make sure we have great documentation in support of working with the card networks and accommodating and supporting their operating requirements to always ensure that we are facilitating and processing a good, legal, permissible activity. We continue to monitor that landscape. We continue to network and work with the legislative side, and I call it educating the congressional staffers on the Hill, because we have I'll call it a nice army of advocates in support of the industry and in support of the payments industry in regards to supporting the player, the consumers, and the operators. So we could have a whole webinar on that question alone to give the intricacies and the details, but I would just tell you there's tremendous confidence.
Brilliant. And then I guess it's one more for you, Neil, perhaps. How do you think new payment methods are going to differ in the US, and what are the options available?
As it relates, well, look, if you look at it as it relates to Europe, the US is unique. It's unique in that there's not 100 different ways for people to pay. When you really break it down, there's the ability for a consumer to use their credit or debit card, that they do every day, to use their bank account, or we often hear terms like ACH, basically writing an online check, a digital wallet, where it's kind of think of it as your online centralized bank account, where you can track and monitor all of your transactions in a very secure and efficient way. There's prepaid, so the ability to fund a prepaid card today and then being able to transfer that balance to operators. And then there's also, we look at it as cash. And I went into PaySafeCard earlier. I won't take too much time about that now, but the ability for those consumers, for whatever reason, despite what Joe and I just talked about for 45 minutes about ensuring a safe and secure environment, there still are consumers who, for whatever reason, cannot or are hesitant to use a credit card online and would prefer to, use cash and convert that into a digital currency. And so we see that again in areas around the world where credit card acceptance rates is very, very high, and the cash voucher into digital currency through PaySafeCard is extremely popular. So again, I think the ability for a consumer to have choice, which comes down to credit and debit, prepaid, wallets, ACH, and cash, is really what's going to be important. Making sure that all of those solutions are available for them, that work properly, and then leave it up to the consumer to do what makes them feel good.
Brilliant, thanks. We've had a question come through here, which is asking, are some payment products easier than others to operate on an interstate basis, such as digital wallets versus ACH, or is it fairly consistent across the board?
Joe,
go ahead.
Touch on it, Joe, and then I'll let you repeat that. I think I'll just start with it's a bit more of a generic answer, but the gaming industry and the financial services industry are probably the two most regulated industries on the planet, and we operate in both. And I think that when I talked earlier about this being just the beginning, everything that we do, whether it's licenses that we hold in different states or different countries, there's nothing that we are going to do to jeopardize those licenses anywhere. So everything that we do, despite again being as regulated as any industry, everything that we do, we want to ensure we won't do it unless we are sure that we are complying with both state and federal law, number one. And we also want to ensure that we are compliant with anything that comes about from the card brands, the networks, etc., so that again, we're not in violation of any rule, any regulation, or any law. Everything that we are doing is to make sure that not only we as the payment provider are compliant, but that our partners, the operators, the consumers, are also transacting in a compliant fashion.
Yeah, and I would just, add some additional color. You have two highly complex, highly regulated industries converging. You take a look at the predominant funding mechanism that's consistent amongst the 50 states in the U.S. market is the ability to do a financial transaction, whether that financial transaction is being used to use direct, right? It's top of wallet. I want to just use my debit or credit card or prepaid card initially, or I am using a financial instrument to fund my Play Plus prepaid program or my Skrill wallet or whatever it may be. I think there's unique complexities in some of the different methods, the ACH guarantee and all the above. They're all going to have their own nuances surrounding some of the complexities, but what's consistent is every one of the ancillary service providers, the alternative payment providers, we are all aligned and have a shared vision and goal of protecting the integrity. And everyone is going about the industry with integrity and doing it the right way. And that's pretty unique when you go into a market that has this great of an opportunity that truly is going to drive an omni-channel offering over time, that you have everyone aligned with one shared vision and goal of protecting the integrity and increasing the velocity and making it seamless to get money in and out and doing it in a legal, lawful manner. That's exciting when everyone's aligned and have that same shared goal.
Brilliant. And someone here has just asked if you can quickly repeat the point you made in the webinar presentation on the chargeback side of things.
Yeah, based on in 2018, the dispute rate was 0.188%, so call it 19 basis points in disputes in terms of the fraud-related chargebacks, and which is lower than your traditional e-commerce industry. So back to that point is the regulators have done a phenomenal job at putting in regs that insulate or protect the integrity from a age verification. Companies like GeoComply and the geolocation services that are utilized, the AML, the KYC, maybe some form of device fingerprinting or knowledge-based authentication. By putting in and architecting an operating framework based on the credentialing of opening up an account and insulating that you're not going to have underage and someone conducting an illegal transaction because they're outside the jurisdictional boundaries. When you take a look at what the regulatory framework has been put in place, and you take a look at how all that has been cascaded down to the ancillary service providers and every one of the companies that participate and play a role in the online gaming or sports betting market, everyone has done a phenomenal job at putting in the governance and the oversight and the transactional monitoring, regardless of if it's ACH or card or wallet or whatever it may be. I compliment everyone in the industry because we're all in this together. They've done a phenomenal job. That has cascaded down to having obviously very, very low chargebacks, right? Which, again, combats what the perception of being a high-risk industry.
I'd just add one thing to that, Joe, just very quickly. You know, I talked about that perception of it being high risk. You also look at the different payment types today that are in the market. So most of the operators are utilizing what's being called a guaranteed ACH product or the VIP preferred product. The digital wallets like Skrill and things like PaySafeCard Cash are all fully indemnified. So when you look at the wallets and you look at the cash solution, there is no concern for an operator of a chargeback because those are fully guaranteed by the providers, number one. And then number two, we go back to even when it's not a fully guaranteed solution, when you look at the credit and debit card side of things, the return rate is very, very low. So as an industry, like Joe said, we're doing a fantastic job keeping those fraud rates down in areas where it's not a fully guaranteed solution. And then, of course, the operators are presented with multiple options where the transactions are fully indemnified with no risk of a chargeback at all.
Then this is a question someone's brought in about just based on your guys' experience thus far. Where is New Jersey currently, and obviously some of the other states as well, in terms of being in an ideal seamless payments environment, and how does that sort of compare to pre-PASPA?
Well, I think twofold. Until we have, at least from my personal perspective and contributing to this industry over the years, is I personally won't be satisfied until we've exhausted every payment method and a consumer can seamlessly get money in and out. That doesn't happen over time. That is going to be a gradual process, a lot of education. I compliment everyone in this industry for what they have done, what we've accomplished collectively, but most importantly, what we will all do to when there's a day when I'm personally satisfied that I don't care what payment method it is that's chosen by the player, that it's seamless and frictionless to get money in and out, that they can use a mobile app and not have the challenges of Apple related to that mobile app getting approved to seamlessly allow a consumer engagement that's seamless. So the industry continues to evolve, a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work outside of just payments, but we are all collectively seeing the benefits of this heavy lifting. New Jersey started it off, Nevada, Delaware, New Jersey with iGaming, and it was incredibly painful. We've come a tremendous way. But what happens now with the repeal of PASPA is all the large issuers, and I'm focused on from a debit card perspective, because about 70% of the financial transactions that are being utilized are debit cards. The financial institutions now see the opportunity related to the fee income side of the house, and knowing that this is being rolled out in a very disciplined manner on a state-by-state basis, now, because of the repeal of PASPA, now opens up a tremendous opportunity for the financial institutions and the specific issuing banks to monetize, knowing that this is good, legal, lawful activity, and that the inherited protections are in place, and that the regulatory environment has insulated to insulate it, to make sure that the controls are in place and there are tremendous audit trails and what have you. So there's always going to be work to do, because once we solve payments, we're going to find something else to go solve. But that is a testament to the discipline of the entire gaming and gambling industry, regardless of what role you sit in related to the industry.
Brilliant. Well, we've just got time for just about one more question. There's understandably a lot of buzz around esports at the moment in the US and globally. How do you see payments handling this unique vertical and others like it?
Joe, I'll touch on it and then let you kind of take us home. But look, I think, and Joe alluded to this earlier, when we talk about the gaming industry, we look at it from a number of different perspectives: real money gaming, casino and poker, sports betting, horse racing or ADW, fantasy sports, social gaming, and of course esports. I think if people in this industry have been following, esports is absolutely exploding right now. We, PaySafe, I can speak on behalf of PaySafe, are extremely bullish on the esports market. In fact, we've partnered and sponsored with a number of individual teams. We're one of the lead sponsors of something called the ESL, the Esports League, and with live events around the world. We believe that there's a tremendous opportunity, and in fact, some of the largest esports games that are in the market today use our services. And without getting into the details, I can tell you that it's a vertical that is growing extremely well, extremely quickly. And again, one that not only are we following closely, are we investing in heavily, but it is one that is also purely from a transactional volume perspective, increasing on a daily basis. So as it relates to esports, very bullish, very excited, and look forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah, and I would just add that we continue to make sure we understand the business model, consumer behaviors, all the above, and making sure the networks and everyone in the ecosystem understands, does it fit in social? Does it fit in skill-based? What model, because there's different requirements that are a part of that. So we continue to interrogate in a positive way to make sure that model, as it continues to evolve, that there are no challenges from a payment perspective, and the industry doesn't take a step back because someone didn't understand the model and it impacts the entire industry. So we are taking a very prudent way, working with PaySafe and others to make sure that everyone understands the model and it becomes a beneficiary to what the sports betting, internet gaming, and all the fantasy sport companies, what they've been able to do to get us to this point. So we appreciate everyone joining. As more updates become available in the industry, you will see other webinars forthcoming. Again, appreciate the collective efforts of what everyone has done, and more importantly, what we will do as an industry to lean this industry forward successfully. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, I'll second that. That's all we've got time for today, so thanks to everyone for joining us and sharing your insight, Joe and Neil as well. As many of you in the audience may know, this webinar has been part of our iGaming Business North America relaunch week, so do keep an eye on igamingbusiness.com and your emails to see other exciting pieces of content we'll have coming your way. Today's webinar has also been recorded and will be available to listen to on demand for you to rewatch and share with your colleagues. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.